Testing, testing. Good morning. Still playing around with the new format here. And so this is Dash admin training. And let me see if it's properly broadcasting. Should may not be. There we go. Alright, and looks like we got audio, so let me check that. Alright, sorry about the delayed start here. So for our vConsole customers, we no longer are providing live trainings. We are now only doing live trainings for our Dash platform. However, if you are a vConsole customer, if you go to the support page, in fact, over here, and click on vConsole support, you can get to the previous training by scrolling down, and watch the advanced admin training. And that is the full training that covered everything for vConsole. And then down below that, we have the various guides for different features under vConsole as well as for devices. Likewise, for our Dash customers who may or may not be able to attend these live trainings, if you go to Dash support page, you can scroll down, and we have a recorded training here under new user training that covers all the features. And again, the various feature guides as well as device guides are here on this page as well. Alright, let's go ahead and see if we can go ahead and get logged in here. Yeah. Definitely does not like going to this page right now. Let's check something here. Let's try this again. Alright, so this is the login page. It's a little skewed because of the view I have here. And let me get to interact mode here. There we go. So you would put your username, which is typically your email address. Oops. The account name is your company name. And then obviously your password. You can always click Remember Me. You can always click on Forgot Your Info if you don't remember. Alright, now I'm gonna let me make sure I'm doing the right thing here. Yeah, I'm using the right password. This is very strange. Alright. Let's see if I can get in this way. Alright, there we go. Sorry about that. Looks like I had an extra character in there, throwing me off. Alright, let me see if I can adjust page a little bit here. There we go, much better. Alright, so we've got your basic dashboard page here. Now if you just signed up, you're going to get the startup wizard, which will walk you through a few things. Once you close out of that, it will then show you back here on your main dashboard page. Over here on the right, we have this 3 horizontal line icon, hamburger menu. So we're on the dashboard. Next up, we have queues. This will get you 2 ACD queues. So either if you need to set them up as an admin, or if you're a standard user, this allows the users to log into the queues and out. Blacklist, this allows you to block numbers from contacting your system. Essentially, you have to have the caller ID. If you enter the caller ID, those numbers can't get through. Faxes, this is your fax manager. As an admin, you can get to any fax box on the system. You can see all the inbound and outbound faxes. All right, next up we have the monitor. I believe their engineers are working on this. There was some issues with it, but basically allows you to see the current status of your staff members. Basically, are they waiting for a call? Are they on an inbound call? Are they on an outbound call? Or are they marked themselves unavailable? Recordings, this gets you to your call recordings if you're making use of call recordings. The user portal, this is the view every user has. As an admin, you could switch between the dashboard and your user portal. Typically, the use of the user portal is for people they can check their voicemail through the web interface. They can also set up their own call forwarding here as well. Voicemails, again, as an admin, you can get to any voicemail box on the system and manage the voicemails in those boxes. And then lastly, which is just being cut off, is the webhooks. This is if you're making use of APIs to link Dash in with other software. Right up here at the top, we have caller ID. This is your main company caller ID. You can use any of your phone numbers. Down below here, we have company CNAME or caller ID name. This, you're restricted to 15 characters, including spaces or special characters. It takes a few days for this to upload to the various servers. Now, a couple things to keep in mind is that not every carrier in North America supports the caller ID name or CNAME. So if a call happens to route through one of those carriers, that information does not get through to the person receiving the call. Even for all the carriers who do support CNAME, if they're having like a maintenance issue, a maintenance window, or heavier than expected call volume, this is the first thing they drop. Right? Their primary concern is connecting the call, followed by the caller ID information, and then lastly the caller ID name. And then one other caveat is if you're ever calling someone who has your phone number programmed, into their device, that programming is going to override anything that we send to the phone. All right, down below, we have the company emergency address, or E911, and this is the default address any VoIP phone is going to send when someone dials 911 from their VoIP phone. So obviously you want to make sure this is the correct address, and you can actually change that by device. Here we've got hold music. So Dash allows you to upload media files, .mp3 or .wav. Couple things to keep in mind is you want to make sure that any file you upload is recorded in mono, not in stereo. And that's simply because when you listen to any of your files, when you call in over the phone, you only have the one speaker, so it's a mono device. When you try, if you've uploaded a stereo file instead, when you call in over the phone, all you're going to hear is a bunch of static. So again, you want to upload it in mono. Currently, file size is restricted to 1 megabyte. 1 megabyte MP3, for example, is roughly 5 minutes long. In terms of hold music, this essentially customer calls into your system. They hear ringing until someone picks up. Now, once your staff member presses hold on their phone, say on their VoIP phone, this is the default music that will play. and you can actually set up users to have their own individual hold music if you wish. All right, then we got hours, which actually takes you to a subsection under main number. And actually, let me change this a little bit, see if I can get a little bit more room going. Looks like I need that to get a little bit higher. I realized I went a little ahead of myself. Let me explain a little bit more what's going on the dashboard page itself. Users, this lets you know how many users are on the account. Generally speaking, on Dash, you are paying on a per user basis, so the more users you have, the higher your bill is going to be. Then we got your total devices, basically broken down by type: VoIP phone, soft phone, cell phone, landline, etc. Unregistered basically means for a VoIP phone, we can't detect that phone is connected, which means we'll have problems sending calls to it. Over here on your main numbers, these are the main numbers that your customers call in to talk to you. These numbers all behave the same way. They will all route the same way, meaning if you have a main greeting play, they will all have the same main greeting, for example. You got your fax box number here. This is for your incoming faxes. And if you're making use of the conference bridge, you can also have a section here for your conference bridge number. Total numbers, all the numbers on your account. Generally speaking, Dash customers or plans start with 1 to 3 phone numbers as part of your plan. Once you go over that, you're paying an additional $4.99 per number, at least by default. That might be different for international numbers. We got it broken down here. US DID, meaning US local numbers, and then US toll-free. And then you can also have a section for international numbers. You got the company directory down here. These are people that you've all said that you want to have show up in the user directory, and you can change that whenever you want. You have a download link here, so you can download it so you have it for your records. The account ID, this is technically your account number. If you ever call into support or billing, we don't typically ask you for this number. We typically will ask you for your company name. That's usually a bit easier for people. The account realm, this is used for a couple different things. It's used as part of email to fax. So basically, if you're sending out a fax, we have you use your email. And the realm is your domain, right? So in terms of format for faxing, it's +1 area code and phone number, the @ symbol, and then your account realm. That's in the to section of your email. And then in the body, you would include an attachment of a PDF or a TIFF. And then down at the bottom here, we have your store discount code. So basically, for just being a customer of VirtualPBX, you automatically get a discount in our web store. All right, so now let's go back to numbers here. Just making sure the page loads for everybody. All right, at the top, you have your main numbers. And you can see them all listed here. You can always unassign numbers. Once you unassign a number, it goes into your spare numbers, at which point you can always delete the number if you're not going to use it anymore. You have the option from adding from spare numbers, so these are numbers on your account that you're not currently using, or buy a number. And if you click on that, you have your choice between local or toll-free. You choose toll-free, for example. You choose a prefix. You click on search, and it'll give you a list, and you click add, and then by number, and it will activate the number. Basically, this is the process that is validating that it's a legit number that we have, and then it's added to your system here. And in fact, in this case, added right as your main number. All right. Local numbers is you're searching for a number in a specific area code. And do a search, and only got those 4 available. So you would click add and then by numbers, and that would add it to your system. Office hours strategy. So by default, new accounts are set up under 24-hour open office, meaning you're open, you're ready to take calls. Right? The system is ready to accept calls coming in. Most people choose custom office hours. Each day of the week that they're open, they put a check mark, and then you put your open hours here in these boxes, and it's just a drop down, and it's set in 24-hour time for military time. Right, and you leave it unchecked if you're closed. You also have the option here, if your whole office or store is closed for lunch, you can put your lunch hours here. Oops, that is not what I wanted. Let me There we go. For some reason, this keeps cutting off part of the page. All right, so if you ever made changes, you want to click on the Save Changes here at the bottom. Not quite sure why it keeps cutting off. Office holidays. If you're closed for holidays, you put a check mark, and then you can add the holidays. Single day, which would be right here, President's Day. You just enter the date, click Save Changes. Notice that there's no year for any of these. That's a major concern here, because the other option here, or one of the other options, is date range, which we have here for Christmas, so from December 22nd to December 26th. You don't want a date range to cover New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Basically, the system puts you in closed mode from that point on. And then you also have advanced, which is right here. And then you can choose, the second Monday of every March, we're closed. It's just our, annual company retreat, for example. And again, you would click on Save Changes. Next, we have incoming call handling. So this is how your system is handling those main numbers, or calls to those main numbers. What do you want it to do? So first tab here is during your open hours. You've got your after hours here at holiday hours. If we are closed for lunch, you would also have a closed or lunch hours tab here. And then you have these three options. So basically, first, if call comes in, goes to the virtual receptionist. It's a little link here. It should pop open. This is what some people also refer to as like an auto attendant. So basically, calls come in, you have a greeting play, and you're giving your callers or your customers directions on where to go or what to press on their phone, and then basically navigate through your phone system. All right, so over here on the left is the main menu. You have your dialing options here. You click Add a Route. It's for some reason not showing up here. But basically, you select your options. Basically, it's 0 through 9 and the star key. And then you have the options of where you want to send it to. So you can send it to people, like an individual person. You can send it to a group. You can send it to, in this case, an ACDQ. You can also send it to a particular device or even a media file. Downside of sending it just to a media file is after the media file plays, the call ends. Over here, you've got your greeting options. So text-to-speech, you simply type it in and you click Update, and then you will click Save. You can upload your own file, again, .wav, .mp3. You can also choose from existing files. Again, this is a pull down. You can record it over the phone. So the system, when it says registered phone, that means it's a VoIP phone it's looking for. Basically, you dial in, you enter in the PIN code, and then the system will walk you through recording the greeting. Even if you already have a greeting in place and you want to replace it with one that you record over the phone, again, you would just call in. When your greeting plays, you enter in the PIN, and then you can start recording. And then you also have professional recording services. We partnered with another company called Snap Recordings. They handle their own billing, and they have something like 100 voice actors to choose from, both male and female. You have different versions of English. You've got options for Spanish and French, as well as bilingual. They can also do hold music, so like hold music in a script, right, going back and forth, that sort of thing. Also, we have settings, number of retries on misdial. Basically, your customer called in and they hit the wrong button. That's invalid. How many times you let them do that before either the default action comes in, which could be a main menu option, or the system ends a call. And the reason you would say you wouldn't want a default action is to prevent robo-dialers from getting through to people, which is why that system doesn't have a default action set up here. Any changes you make here, you want to click Save. Oops. And then you need to hit Save Changes here as well. Not sure why that error coming up. But that will save all the changes. Here's your fax box number. Again, you can unassign a number or add another number. You can edit your fax box. Now, I know my fax box here on this system is having an issue. But when you edit the fax box, you can enter in an email address, and that's for inbound notifications, basically saying, hey, you got a fax, you can send it to this email address, and that email address will get email with a PDF of the fax. And then there's the SNTP permissions box. Basically, you can put in your company's domain, so like at virtualpbx.com, for example, and then anyone with that email domain can send a fax out, even if they're not a user on the account. They just have the correct format. All right, numbers. These are all your numbers on the account and where they're going. Spare numbers, these are the numbers I'm not using that are on the account. You also have the option here to port a number. Basically, that's move it from one carrier to another. You can upload this, the LOA, letter of authorization, and the copy of your bill through the portal, or you can email them at porting@virtualpbx.com. A couple things to remember about porting. You need an active account on both sides of the port, meaning the company that you're porting from has to have an active account, or you have to have an account with the company you're porting from, and you need an active account with us, who you're porting to. Porting a number can take anywhere from a day to 6 weeks. Typically, toll-free numbers are within a few days. Call it anywhere from 3 to 5 business days. A local number, I've seen it happen in one day because everything was right and the losing carrier knew that this was happening. And we're working with our customer to have an easy transition. And I've seen them take much longer, usually because there's a problem with the paperwork. Like they had the wrong person signed, they had the wrong address, etc. Go to users. These are all the users. Clicking add a user lets you add more people. Again, you need first name, last name. Each email address needs to be unique. Now, meaning like you can't have support@VirtualPBX used for 5 different people. Right? You can only use that email once. Now, you could get around it by putting support1@VirtualPBX, support2. And so then you could create individual users that way. The downside of that, though, is if they ever forget their passwords, those emails aren't going anywhere unless you set them up on your own side. By default, it'll put you on the next extension number. Now, when you first get set up, it wants to default you to extension 1000. You can change that as you're setting up, or you can even change it now. I could set this to 3014 if I wanted to. Check mark here to include them in the user directory, or uncheck if you don't want them. You can always change that later. The big thing, though, here is this one here, is you want to send credentials to the user, right? So that way they know how to log in. Just click on the name. You can change the name. You can change their credentials. You can change their voicemail box PIN here. The send emails to an alternate address. That's basically in addition to whatever email address you have up here. So you want to have it sent to their personal email address. All right, then you have the option here to include in company directory. Over here, you have the option to, well, again, these forms are not showing up on this application, but you can change a user to an admin or an admin to a user. This is your time zone, so account default, or you can set it to their particular time zone. This is the language. English, French, Russian are the options. Bringing timeout. This is the default amount of time that we will send a telephone call to this user. If they're using VoIP phones or landlines, 20 seconds is plenty. If this person is using primarily a cell phone, you're going to want to make sure it's 30 seconds, if not up to 60. And then main extension is their default extension number. Now, users can have multiple extensions if you want them to. And then you can just add another extension. The phone numbers, again, each user can have a phone number go right to them. and actually they can have multiple numbers if they want to. Devices. Add from spare devices means you're adding a device that's already on the account and not being used, or you can add a new device. SIP phone. This is a VoIP phone, and we support these manufacturers. I'm not sure who the blank one is. You click on a manufacturer, and you can select the phone. You enter in the name and the MAC address, and then you click on Create Device. Now, within the dashboard, you're done. However, on the phone itself, you need to adjust some settings on the phone. We do have guides up on our main website for what you would need to change, but typically it's switching a URL for where that phone is looking for configuration file information. Once you make that change, the phone will reboot, and it should be able to connect. And then you can use basically all the features of that phone. And let me see if and now the browser is stuck. All right. Sorry about this. There we go. All right, so back on devices, oops, or under user devices. All right, so let's go to user features and see if it'll let me go here. Now, caller ID name only works on a user if they have a phone number directly to them. Call forwarding, this comes into play for VoIP phone users. So basically, for your people who are only or mostly using their VoIP phones, you can make use of call forwarding. In failover mode, basically their VoIP phone loses connection. They can put their cell phone number here. And you can choose either desk phone or mobile phone, it doesn't really matter. So basically, VoIP phone loses connection, but calls would still be sent to their cell phone. Or you can just turn it on so that they know, for instance, that they're going to be away from their desk for an extended amount of time, just have calls get sent to their cell phone. The main thing to remember there is that the cell phone is not a device on the user they only have VoIP phones. Hot desking is a VoIP phone feature used when you're in a shared office environment where people change where they are on a day-to-day basis, meaning they use different phones and different desks each day. Hot desking allows them to log into their phone that they happen to be sitting at, so that way they can take their calls. And at the end of their shift, they would log back out. Every user has a voicemail box, and it's active by default. Users can have their own fax box, so basically faxes come straight to them. I typically recommend, if you're going to do that, just to make use of one of your spare numbers or add a number. You can set it up as a separate extension number, but then you need to make sure you train the people who are faxing to you how to fax, because basically they have to call your main number, then they have to enter the extension that they're faxing to, and then on their fax machine hit start fax. My experience for most people, they go up to a fax machine, they enter the number, they hit scan, hit start fax, document scans, and they walk away. Follow me. This is if you have multiple devices. And actually this user doesn't, so let us go here. See if so basically all your devices you want to make enabled, and then you have these green lines, and you can scroll them out, or you can click distribute. So now it's going to go in order here, and you can still adjust the lines after that, saying, hey, I want these two to ring at the beginning, etc. The main thing is you don't want a gap between devices. And then you click on Save Changes. Music on hold. Each user can have their own hold music, again, .wave.mp3. And then customize call recording. So if you're making use of call recording, main thing to remember is inbound internal. Right, that means a call coming to this user from another user on the account. Right, inbound external means a call coming to this user from some outside the company, i.e. a customer is calling. And then outbound internal means this user is calling another user, or this user is calling another customer. All right, groups, shorthand for ring groups, basically a department group of people who answer the same kind of calls. Groups, you just give them a name, give an extension number. All right, and then you click and drag people over to be a part of the group. And you click on Create Group. Now if you click on the group, you can always change the name. Dialing repeats, there's little arrows here on the right. You can click. Basically, this is how many times the inbound caller can try to reach everyone in the group. So twice. If no one in the group, then that's all they get, basically. Click on Save Changes. So you click on Members. Not quite sure why it doubled up like that. But you can click Distribute to have them ring in series. Again, you can click and drag the numbers around. You can click and drag people to change the order and then redistribute, for example. And then you click on Save Changes. All right, again, extension number, you can add additional extension numbers. And that extension number, so your staff can transfer calls to this group, right? So they got to the wrong person, or they need to speak to two different kind of people, but instead of hanging up and calling back in, you say, hey, let me transfer you over here. Right, phone number goes directly to the group, so they don't have to hit a menu option or an extension number. They just go right to these people. Then we got group features. Call recording. It's either on or it's off, and it's for every one of the users. Ringback, this is essentially hold music for the ring group. So basically, while your customer is waiting to speak to one of your staff, you can either choose a file that's there or upload your own, again, .wav.mp3 in mono. Click Save Changes. The main thing you want to keep in mind here is for the ringback, you want that file to be, by default, 2 minutes long. If you go back here under Members, right up here, that's the ringing duration you have for the ring group. You can always change that up, but you want to make sure that whatever ringback file you have is at least this long. Next action, this is probably the most important thing. You want to enable it, and then if no one answers, right? So the 2 ring-throughs, after that second ring-through, no one was able to pick up, right? Your staff is busy, and you're like, what do you want it to do? You can send callers to usually a voicemail box. You can also send it to the main menu. You can send it to a particular device. You can send it to a person. But I usually say, hey, send it to a voicemail box or the main menu, basically, so they can enter another menu option. Allow call forward. Basically, this allows your users to forward calls to their cell phones. And then caller ID prepend. This is for your VoIP phone users. If you enable it, you can add additional information to the caller ID that shows up on the VoIP phone's displays, either a text or numeric header, essentially. Just to give a heads up, basically, what kind of call it's about. Especially useful if you have people in multiple groups, etc. Going over to devices. Adding a cell phone and a landline, actually, they're basically the same. You put a name, you put +1, area code and phone number, and then you would click on Create Device. Under Advanced Options, you got a couple things here. So so by default, when Dash sends a caller to a cell phone or a landline, and you pick up on that device, the system comes on and says, this is a forwarded call, please press 1. Right? Basically, that way you're letting the system know you're there, and then it connects the call. If you don't want to do that, right, you just want to be able to pick up and start talking, you can put a check mark here, allow use of cell phone's voicemail, so that way when you pick up, the call's connected. Now, as the feature here, or the option here is named, if your cell phone voicemail, for example, picks up, then that inbound caller ends up on your cell phone's voicemail box. Maybe that's great, and you love that. Maybe you don't want that. That's up to you. All right, keep original caller ID. What this means is the caller ID that shows up on your cell phone is going to be this customer's phone number. Right? If you uncheck this, then it'll be whatever PBX number they dialed, right? One of your main numbers, for example. Just a minute. Excuse me. Sorry about that. All right. Soft phone. Oops, actually, let's go back under users for that real quick. All right, so soft phone here, again, it counts as a VoIP device. And this is simply a software application that runs on a computer or even a smartphone to make and receive calls. Now, the reason you would do that on a smartphone is so that way you're not using your phone minutes if you're on a limited minute plan, especially if you're on Wi-Fi a lot. Right? Then you can make use of your Wi-Fi to make and receive calls. You give it a name, and by default, this is set up as using a third-party application, meaning you're using something like Xlite from Counterpath. If you're going to use our VirtualPBX soft phone, you would click right here, and that changes to use VirtualPBX application. You'll put a name, and you would click on Create, and then the system would email you. But you have to make sure you do this under a user for the VirtualPBX soft phone. If you're using third-party, it doesn't matter. Likewise, you have option here is a web phone. So what the web phone is it makes use of currently Chrome and Firefox, but allows you to use your browser to make and receive phone calls. And we just released the version 2 of this web phone. I haven't had a chance to really use it yet, but there's some increased functionality in terms of like you being able to transfer people, and I believe you can put them on hold, etc. And again, this is both the VirtualPBX soft phone and the web phone are tied to specific users, so you need to add them via the user page. And then landline is the same as cell phone. All right. Voicemail boxes, these are all your voicemail boxes. So every user, when they're created, they have their own voicemail box. These voicemail boxes are tied tightly with their users. So they're basically, when a voicemail is left there, it can get flagged onto their VoIP phone. So like the VoIP phone lamp light will light up to let you know, hey, you got a message. So you definitely do not want to delete these voicemail boxes unless you're sure they're never going to have a voicemail at all. You can also create voicemail boxes here. And this is, for example, for use with your ring groups or for your ACD queues. Okay, feature codes. These are basically shortcut keys on your VoIP phones that your staff can make use of to log into the ACD queues, set up their call forwarding, etc. This information is also on our website under --support feature codes, so you don't actually have to log in to get these, and your staff can get them at their leisure. And then we got the call logs here. So these are calls that have come into the system. You can click on them to get some additional information. Basically, this is essentially raw call data. Our engineering team is working on getting some more advanced reporting options available, so you can get more detail versus trying to sort through it all yourself. All right, over here, we're going to go under the hamburger menu, hit the go to queues. So these are your queues. You can always add a new queue. Just keep in mind that each queue starts off at $30. You can change the name anytime, give it an extension, or you can add a phone number. The queue routing strategy, which unfortunately this is again not showing. I don't know why that's not consistent. So round robin, basically random and evens out over time. Least calls means that's the least amount of connected calls. So Bob has spoken to 5 people, Mary has spoken to 2. Next call comes in, goes to Mary until she gets up to 5. Then you have least offered, right? So Bob has spoken to 5 and Mary to 2. Bob's only been offered 6 calls, but Mary's been offered 20. Then Bob is going to getting the next call that comes in. And then the last option is most idle. Basically, who's been waiting around the longest. They get the call that comes in. You can upload your own hold music. Again, .mp3 or .wave. Queue timeout, how long people can wait on hold. Queue limit is how many people can wait on hold, right? If 0 means there's no limit, but you can say, oh, I only want 20 people to wait on hold, max, that sort of thing. Timeout immediately if empty, yes or no. Basically, if you enable it, if there's no staff members logged in, it immediately times out and sends up to one of these next two options. Escalation queue means basically the queue timeout happened and you send it to another queue. This means you have to have 2 queues. That's also how you would make use of skills-based ranking, right? So your first queue is, hey, these are people who are primarily taking the calls. Escalation queue is for your secondary team members, right? Now, if you leave it on none, it's not going to send it anywhere, and then you would have escalation after timeout here. You can send it to a voicemail box, right, so that your inbound caller can leave a message. Agent recovery time measured in seconds. Basically, after an agent ends a call, how much time do they get after the call, basically to wrap up their notes, have a sip of water before the next call is offered to them. Force away on reject or missed. Basically, agent misses a call. If you have this enabled, then the system puts them automatically in away mode, and it will stay there until the agent marks themselves ready again. And then agent timeout, basically how much time is an agent allowed to try to get a call before the system moves on to the next agent. One thing to keep in mind about ACD queues is that calls are going to only go to VoIP phones. So as long as your users have at least a VoIP phone, they'll get a call. But if they only have cell phones and landlines, they can't be added to a queue. All right, blacklists. You just click Edit Blacklist. Choose one. You just add +1 area coded number. You would click Save. And then go back to Settings. And you want to make sure it's in the selected. If all of your blacklists are over here under Available, all right, and you click Update, then you're not making use of blacklist at all, right? You've created the lists, but they're not being used. Once you move it over here and click Update, then the blacklist is active. Faxes, as I said, you can get to any fax box on the system. You can see the outbound faxes again for any fax box. The most useful, though, is the email to fax log. So this is when you or your staff are trying to send a fax out. You see the thumbs down, like, oh, that didn't go through. You click on the little eyeball over here on the right, and say, oh, there's no fax boxes. Which, again, I know there's an error here related to fax boxes on this account. Monitor, again, this is a test account, so it's not going to be all that useful. Everyone's green and waiting for a call. Call recordings gets you to the call recording page. The user portal, again, they can check their voicemails. You can see whatever call history you have, your faxes. The contact list is basically everyone on the Dash account. So all the groups, users, queues, etc. Conferences, this is where your users can manage their conferencing. Right, so they can add people who are on the account to the conference. They can lock it so other people cannot join. They can mute everybody. They can unmute, or they can end the call. And when you're actually in a conference on individual participants, you can like mute a particular person or you kick a particular person. And then settings and devices, this is where they can set up their own call forwarding or not, and then see their device status. And that's basically it, because voicemails is just getting to the voicemail boxes of the system. You can get to any one of them and go from there. And that is Dash. Again, I apologize for the technical issues we were running into. Still fine-tuning this newer system that YouTube is making us make use of at the current time. But yeah, thank you for joining me today. Again, if you feel free to watch any of the previously recorded full versions should be a little bit smoother in most cases. And again, under Dash support page, you can get to the particular guides. You can contact our support team. That's 888-825-0800. Option 2 will get you to support. Option 5 will get you to billing. If you want to change your plan, right, or you think it may not be the right plan for you, that would be option 4 for our account services team. And again, we're all available via email, right, support@virtualpbx.com, billing at virtualpbx.com, account services at virtualpbx.com, alpha porting at virtualpbx.com. And then our account services team, or our sales team, and our support team are also available via chat on our website. But that will do it for this session. Again, I thank you for your time for joining me, and have a wonderful day.